Yar! This be a video about the volume of prisms and cylinders. I'm your swashbuckling host, Mr. Shirley, the terror of the sea. Sorry, everybody. I wish I could keep that up for the whole video. That would be wondrous, but I can't. So, as you're watching, please make a note to go along with this. I've given you a handy dandy sheet that you can fill in a little bit of as we go. It's got the word note right in the title of it in Google Classroom, so please print that out or use something to type in it such as DocHub and add to it as we go through this note. All right, please put a date, and you might need a page number, but you might not this time. Date definitely. So we'll be considering some methods for calculating the volume of cylinders and different types of prisms in this video. Remember as well, if I go too fast, pause the video, go back. Okay, so we'll start off with the volume of rectangular prisms. Remember, we talked about all the names of these things the other day. So the formula is very simple. It is length times width times height. Okay, and because it's rectangular, it really doesn't matter which of those dimensions you consider the length and width and height, as long as you get all three of them in there. All right, so the first example here is not, so we've got length, width, and height, would be 9 and 17 and 24. So length times width times height is the volume. And remember too that if you see the letters together without a multiplication sign in between, it indicates you are still multiplying them together. So just make sure you do that. Okay, so 17 times 9 times 24 should get, if I did my math right, 3,672 centimeters cubed. Remember, we're doing volume, so everything should have a cubed at the end. And remember, you don't have to put the units of measurement in when you're doing your calculation up here, but in your final answer, you definitely should include them. All right, on we go. Now, there are specific formulas to find the volume of any type of prism that you can imagine. Okay, somebody's come up with a formula for it, but they all boil down to the area of the base, okay, which in this case is that shaded region at the bottom in a triangular prism. It would be one of the triangles. So the area of the base times the height, okay, which is the area, the distance between the bases. Okay, so you've got a triangle on top and bottom. Height's going to be the distance in between. Every single prism volume formula boils down to this. Okay, so area of the base times the height. So the formula you use for the base might be a little different depending on whether we're talking about a triangular prism or a prism like number 6 down here, which is a trapezoid prism. And you could have other kinds. Even the rectangular prism actually works this same way. But you're finding the area of that base first. Okay, and then multiply it by the height. All right, so we'll do the example number 4 here. And since we need to find the area of the base, in this case we have a triangular prism, so we need to find an area of that triangle. All right, now here's the important part when you're looking at the area of these triangles. Let me grab my little handy dandy pen tool here. Is that, remember, we've got the height going this way, which means our base for finding the area needs to be that one right there, because it has to be perpendicular to the height. Okay, I know it's got 9 for the bottom of the triangle, but if we use that to find the area of the triangle, we would need this distance right there, which we don't have. You could probably figure it out using some Pythagorean theorem, but we don't want to do that. We know already that this distance is 12 because it's listed at the back there. So we can use that 12 and go with that, and it will save us a lot of time. Okay, so our volume, we want the area of the triangle times the height of the prism. Okay, so that means here's our area of the triangle formula, and I used HT to be height of the triangle and HP to be height of the prism. I know I'm sort of making these up on the fly, but hopefully that makes sense to keep the heights separated. Otherwise, it's a little confusing. So 1/2 times base times height of the triangle times the height of the prism. Okay, which means 1/2 times 12, which is that base of the triangle, times 7.3, which is the height of the triangle, times 5, which is the distance between the triangles. All right, and then when you multiply all those together, you should get 219 feet cubed. Hopefully you got that. Okay, on to the next one. Next page. All right, we'll look a little bit at cylinders, okay? And some people call this a circular prism. It's not quite exactly correct to say that, but it's the same logic. You're still finding the area of the base, which is pi r squared, which is the bottom of the cylinder, times the height, which is the distance between the two circles. Okay, so we're using the same logic. All right, so we'll find the volume of this cylinder here. 18 inches is the radius. Always with cylinder questions, as with any circle questions, be careful about diameter and radius to make sure you're using only the radius to find those areas. Okay, so it's pi r squared h, just like here. Remember again, if you don't see signs in between, it means it's multiplying. So pi times 18 squared times 15 should get us, rounding a little bit, 15,268.1 cubic inches. Okay, or inches cubed, or inches to the exponent 3, or whatever you would like to say. It all works as long as you write it like that. Okay, so we'll move on to one last example, which is just kind of an application, and this is actually something of a composite three-dimensional shape, which we've done a little bit of in 2 dimensions, this same logic. So what we're doing is, so we want a cylinder with a 2 centimeter diameter, okay, that's right in there in the picture, right through the middle, is drilled through the triangular prism shown on the left. We want to find the volume of the prism. Okay, so we're finding the volume of the prism, subtracting the volume of the cylinder. Okay, now one quick thing just before we go on, just as a reminder, is that because we've got 2 centimeter diameter, that means our radius is going to equal 1 centimeter because we just divide it by 2. Okay, so keep that in mind, please. I'll be using that 1 centimeter in my work here in the question, and I don't want you to get kind of distracted or confused saying, Mr. Shirley, where did you pull 1 centimeter from? So volume of the prism, okay, the prism itself, that's the 1/2 base times height, remember area of the triangle, times the height, which is the distance between the triangles, minus the volume of the cylinder that's been taken out of the middle of this rectangular prism. Okay, now finding the area of the triangle is a little tricky in this example, but it helps if you notice, if you squint right in there, right in this top corner of the triangle, there's a little right angle square, which makes things a lot easier for us because we can use 5 as the base and 5 as the height of that triangle. Okay, we don't even need to worry about that 7.1. That 7.1 could just go away. We don't even need it. Okay, so yeah, don't need it at all, thankfully. So just trust me, it's there. If you're, can't quite see it, we'll use it at the back. All right, so 1/2 times the base of 5 centimeters times the height of 5 centimeters, that's the height of that little triangle right there, times 14, which is the distance between the triangles, and then we're subtracting the volume of that cylinder. Okay, so pi times 1 squared, remember 1 is the radius, times 14, which is the height of the cylinder. Okay, and then when we put all that together, we get 175 minus 43.98. Round it a little bit. Remember, anytime you use pi, you're likely rounding a little bit. And your final answer should be 131.02 centimeters cubed. Okay, so hopefully those all worked out. Hopefully that made sense. Please check the Google Classroom post for the exact questions that I would like you to answer as you're going through this. Feel free to use the formulas that are right on the side of the page. It should help you out a little bit as you're going through. Okay, please let me know if you do end up with any questions. Thank you very much for watching.